What's up, folks? Welcome back to the stream. It's Tuesday. We're getting tactical, and we are just a couple days out after the April Militarum Field Manual update that changed all the points for everything in 40k. Now, while big events, you typically will have a rules cut off 2-ish weeks, 1 to 2 weeks before the event. So events this weekend of the GT plus size essentially did not use these updated points values, so we don't really get to glean too much from looking at them. What did use them is a lot of the smaller one-day events, the sort of small table events that are 3 to 4 rounds, just local RTTs and stuff. So, except for Tau. Yeah, true, it's true. Sorry, Tau. You suck, apparently, and GW hates you, and despite the fact that everyone got points values for their codex, you don't get them until next week. So, whatever. I'm probably gonna kind of, I think, refrain from talking about, like, sort of the meta holistically until we actually see what Tau are looking like, because, man, it's stupid. But we do have a lot of new stuff to look at. There's been so much discourse about Tyranids over the last couple of days. Tyranids actually looked like they did pretty well. Now, this is obviously like RTT data, so I don't know. Take it with a grain of salt, I guess. But Tyranids are definitely showed up and in kind of a high proportion. I didn't take down any numbers, and I didn't have a chance to go through and sort of document all the undefeated lists. So what we're just going to be doing is going through the events that I've noted down that use the updated points values and taking a look at what's winning over there. But there were a lot of Tyranids, a lot of Orks from the new Orks Codex. I think that's probably to be expected, to be honest. And that'll be exciting to run through those and see what the new detachments are doing, all that stuff. Anders Terrestrians going to go to a 60-player tournament this weekend? Hell yeah. Yeah, so as a little bit of an aside as well, everyone, if you are over here watching this live, after the stream, you get redirected to my Richmond Open stream page. It's going to be this weekend. It's a 130-player GT that I'll be live streaming. Away Games has asked me to come out to that one again and cover it. So I'll be streaming that one. We're being sponsored by Army Painter again, which is rad, and they will be using the new points. So one of the biggest events of the weekend, a major level event running the April Militarum Field Manual points. And we're going to get to watch it live. So I'm leaving Friday to go cover that, which is super exciting. I'm psyched. Our Assimilation Swarm Overlords? Yeah, Assimilation Swarm it felt like, I don't know, maybe someone on the development team or the balance team is like really into Assimilation Swarm, because Assimilation Swarm got like laser targeted. You have a thing that's good at Assimilation Swarm? It's getting the points cut. They could have hit Haru Spexes, I guess. That would have been pretty brutal. Pretty good, I guess. Like, they made them cheaper. I don't think you can make a Haru Spex much cheaper, though. 125 for the profile that Haru Spex has is like kind of as low as you can go without it being degenerately stupid. Yeah. Warrior's been slept on for a while. And Tyrant Guard with a Neuro Tyrant. I don't know about the Neuro Tyrant, to be honest. It depends on what detachment you're in, I think. The Neuro Tyrants feel like they just want to be by themselves. They're so useful as just a little like flamer guy who can go deal with utility hits and stuff, that putting them inside like your big melee brick, your big tanky melee brick, feels kind of mediocre. But Hive Tyrants, I think in Assimilation Swarm specifically, Hive Tyrants within the Tyrant Card brick, I'm so into. Kuo started to find the meta. Not quite, chat. Yeah, so lots of events to talk about. I have them noted over here, and I think we're going to go... So, the events that I noted down, just to look at my criteria a little bit, I didn't look at any events that were smaller than 10 players, and for the most part, I looked for like 16 or 20 plus. So there's like hundreds of events every weekend, so I didn't look at all the little ones that had like, 8 people or 6 people or whatever. And I have them noted down, and then I also obviously... segregated them by whether they have used the new points or not. The biggest one of the weekend is this guy. HWP ran the Grain of Salt event. They run the Salt Classic, I think, too. And this one was 40 players rocking the new points values. So we get so many cool things to look at. Imperial Knights actually did have a pretty reasonable weekend as well. They had a couple undefeated results. But yeah, that's probably where we're gonna start going in there. The timestamps for this video are going to be a mess because I don't know if I'm probably not gonna break it down by factions. I think we'll just go by event, from event to event. AdMech does have an undefeated result in here. I did specifically note that one down, although I don't remember which event it's into. It's in my list. BFS TC 144 people. Yeah, it's a team event though. Also didn't use the new points, so we're not talking about it. Get out of here. Here's your old hat, Battle for Salvation. Get with the times. The future is now, old man. Terran geared seems new. Tanky for the new points? Yeah, I think so. I do think Tyrant Guard they've got a place. I think they went from being like basically worthless to definitely having something to do. So let's talk about some new. Actually, let's dive into the other factions first, and then we'll dive into some new orcs. And because we're probably gonna have to look into their codex and actually decipher what they're playing because everything's different now. Adepta Sororitas, Ali Krilly. Oh no, it's opening new pages on my other monitor. It's a little annoying. Please don't do that. Chrome, I appreciate if you... Oh, okay. Just freeze, I guess. All right, well... Oh, yep, nope, it's frozen. All right, well, that was weird. I don't know what happened there, chat. All right. We're in Morven, Palatine. So we've cut Blade of St. Eleanor. First pickup here. Not even taking it. 25 points for the melee weapon? Get it out of here. Who needs it? It's worthless. Worthless garbage. We have a Dialogus, a Saintly Example. So she'll explode into Miracle Dice when she dies. Junithir, Awida, Morven Val, Palatine, St. Celestine, Triumph of St. Catherine. We've got the Battle Sister, Immolator, Wombo combo. So we could potentially put the Palatine in there. We actually have a Palatine Dialogus Triumph combo. So you can double 6 with any 2 Miracle Dice into the unit with the Dialogus and the Palatine. Using the Triumph to put 2 lethal hits through on their multi-multa. So you can automatically do their multi-multa. The weird thing about that is that if you're coming out of an Immolator, you're rerolling wounds already. But maybe we are using the Immolator for something else. We've got a Sororitas Rhino, 2 units of Arcoflagellants, 2 Battle Cannon Castigators. 35-point Crusaders. It's such a weird points value to see Crusaders at because they're so whatever for statistically. 3 Paragon Warsuits, 1 Cheapy Boy Penitent Engine, 55 points for that guy. What a steal. 1 Repentious Squad, 2 Seraphim. So basically, we've cut... This looks like a normal sort of pre-April Sororitas list, but we've cut 1 Arcoflagellant unit that we would normally have taken. In exchange for, I guess not too much, right? We got the Battle Sister Squad. I guess for the Castigators is basically what we're rocking into. So less with the Arcoflagellants being melee counterpunches and more with the Castigators being shooting platforms. If only Tyrant Guard Crushing Class at 3 attacks instead of 2. That's why you gotta play them in Assimilation Swarm. As soon as you kill a unit, you get 3 attacks. Technology. Thousand Suns, man after my own heart. Also, his name's Trevor. Did I play in this tournament? Are we the same person? Hold up. Whoa. We've got an Exalted Disc Sorcerer. 2 Exalted Disc Sorcerers, in fact. Infernal Master, another Infernal Master with Lord of Forbidden Lore. Magnus the Red plus an Umbralific Crystals Zangor Shaman. So that's kind of a more recent maneuver for these lists is to run the teleporting Zangor Shaman in a big brick of 10 or 20 Zangors, and then you can pick him up, drop him, and then double move them, and potentially triple move them if you have a Lord of Forbidden Lore. Although to be fair, we do have it. but it does cost you an extra 10 points now. So we're paying 20 additional points for the upcharged enhancements for the detachment. So you can actually sort of assign 21 OC to almost anywhere you want, because the Zangors will just pop out 9 inches away from someone and then move 12 inches up to them without even having to charge. They obviously can't charge after they move after deep striking, but they can yoink objectives really easily. So if you leave them any space in your deployment zone or in towards your back objective, like they're just going to get deploy teleport armors, they're going to get captured, they're going to flip primary. For 145 points, it's a pretty reasonable pick, because that's what a lot of other factions spend on a 3-inch deep striker to do exactly the same thing. This just costs you an enhancement and a bunch of Cabal points. 1 Mulith Vortex Beast, 5 Scarab called Terminators, just a little unit of 5. It's interesting. At 40 points a model, they don't feel too pricey for that much, and they have like a pip of AP on their combi bolters. They got a lot of synergy with their combi bolters too, so I guess like 20 combi bolter shots for 200 is basically what you would pay for a max rubric squad. You just don't get the rerolls, which is unfortunate. 2 units of cultists, I think is sort of the standard, plus 2 units of Zangor Enlightened. How many rubric squads? 3 rubric squads. So we're really, really light on offense, which is, I think, kind of cool. Where it feels like Thousand Suns are maybe moving in a direction that's more oriented to scoring than it is to killing. Previously, I think all the Rubric Marine lists that were all killing all the time. Everything was a dude with a flamethrower who got wound rerolls, and you couldn't hold territory to save your life, but you killed everything in the middle of the table every turn. And it seems like maybe that paradigm is shifting, because we're only taking 3 actually offensive units. There's no Ahriman in this list, and we're just using like Lord of Forbidden Lore and a bunch of super maneuverable utility units to run around and score points. And then the more you can do that, the more you can keep heat off Magnus, because you're screening him and you're body blocking him. And then Magnus can actually do the killing for the rest of your army, which definitely feels like it's an interesting take. I think I like it. If Magnus dies, though, you're in a bad way. Got some Imperial Knights going on. Gustavo Lorenzo, rocking the expensive Calidus Assassin. Imperial Knights nerfed, chat, after the failed manual update. Brutal. Thousand Suns getting the Giga buff from Militarum. That list went down in points. Like, that list got more expensive. I think it lost 10 points. Oh, no, it stayed the same. That list side-graded, because it lost 10 points on its Terminators, and it lost 10 points on its Cultists, and then it got debuffed by the enhancements. So, like, that is just a pre-change list, basically. It would have been exactly the same. They just moved the focus of the points around. The thing that is different for Thousand Suns is I think they may have a favorable Ork matchup. And I think that remains to be seen, because it's very questionable, because the Orks are super heavy into invulnerable saves because of the wand mechanic, and they're also very aggressive. And the 2 things that Thousand Suns can do, if they're taking multiple disc sorcerers, is they can move debuff you in multiple places, and they can screen transports really effectively, because they have scouts with the cultists, and they have fast movers with the Zangor, and you can move and double move those to get all around the Ork transports and prevent them from disembarking. And then you get to like wander around your side of the table with Magnus. Orks, I don't think have outside of maybe the Green Tide with their super huge charge buff, they don't have an easy way to like connect with Magnus if you're playing KG with him. So Magnus can just like sort of wander around, protected by all these little idiots that are clouding around him, and just pick apart at the Ork army on its way in. Plus, if they're supercharging like Mega Knobs and don't have the mech attached with the force field, then they Twist of Fate probably knocks out Mega Knob squads even on the Wa turn. So I think that's we're definitely going to see Thousand Suns in the meta, and I definitely think that like, on the whole, they've probably shifted upwards. I don't think that's because of the points changes necessarily, but I do think that it is probably because of like sort of meta concerns. Tower going to absolutely ruin the meta? I mean, maybe. Like, who knows what Tower going to do, because they have no points yet. We have no idea. Their Breacher teams could still be 140 points or whatever they are in the Codex, and they'll be unplayable. If you're playing lots of Demon Princes, they got buffed. That's true. Yeah, if you're playing Demon Princes, they did. And like, the Cultists getting a buff is good, because I think Thousand Sons wanted to switch into more Cultists, but they're paying for those points elsewhere, so... You're kind of required to take more Cultists now, not only because that's just useful and good, but also because you get like a rebate coupon. You get like a 10-point rebate coupon if you take 2 units of Cultists. Anyway, we're talking about frickin' Imperial Knights. This list is running Canis Rex, a Cerastus Lancer, and a Night Crusader, plus 3 Armiger Helvrins, plus 2 Assassins, Calidus and Eversor, and a Henchman squad. This feels like it hasn't really changed very much. This is very, like, sort of Brian Jones style. Running the Lancer, Crusader, Canis Rex. There's no Mysterious Guardian on the Crusader. So it is a little unmaneuverable, but that's kind of the core of his list as well, I believe. It feels so small, just 6 vehicles and then the characters, but there's a lot of board presence with 3 big knights and 2 lone operatives, plus the henchmen. I guess the henchmen also went up too, right? We're paying for expensive henchmen now too. So this list actually got debuffed by 20 points. I think a lot of people just simply took their Armiger Warglaves and they deducted 10 points and switched them into Helvrins. I think that's exactly what happened in Knight list composition, and they didn't actually lose any models. They just went from having Warglaves to having Helvrins. And the Helvrins, like, I mean, it's not bad. You want the Warglaves to benefit from the floating rerolls, because you get way more work out of the floating rerolls than you do with the Helvrin. But the Helvrins themselves, like, they can go up to pretty high AP values, and anti-fly 2+ while you're on an objective is unironically pretty sick right now. Not so much against Orks, but I mean, we're just talking about Thousand Sons, and Armiger Helvrin will light up Magnus any day he pumps his little nose out. Why isn't Wahapidi updated points yet? I don't know. It's a one-man operation over there. Let him cook, chat. Let him cook. All right. I want to hop into Death Guard real quick. AG Sousa with a 201 Death Guard. Result. This game must have been sick. A 78-78 tie in the finals there. Must have been super cool. That's unironically hard, right? So, seems good. 2 Biologist Putrefiers, 2 Foul Blightspawn are the only characters. Oh my god. We're not even running Typhus. Where's Typhus? Typhus, where you at, buddy? I don't see you. You're hiding. Are we back to Plague Marines? 2 of 10... 4 of 5 Plague Marines are back, ladies and gentlemen. Alright, so... What? 40 Plague Marines in 4 Rhinos with 3 Predator Destructors, 3 Fetid Bloat Drones, 3 Nurgling Swarms. Alright. That is a straightforward list if I ever did see one. Yeah, I mean, I talked recently, I think you can stack the damage debuffs on the Predator Destructors fairly well if you use the stratagem for Ignore Cover while in contagion range. So they're 1 AP, they go to 2 against infantry, and then you can push them to 3. AP 3 Ignore Cover with the contagion for -1 AP, or -1 to saving throws. So these dudes actually, like, wreck heavy infantry super heavy. You want to talk about those mega knobs, man. These guys are just putting them on their invuln save every time, basically. You could Armor of Contempt to put them back to a 4+ save, I guess, if you wanted to. But you're still getting hit by the las cannons on your invuln. And then we're just taking a ton of fight first Plague Marines. Yeah, again, if you want to blank like super hefty melee aggression, these big 10-man bricks of Plague Marines like holding down an objective, so they can contagion an objective. The contagion doesn't flip unless you can put 20 OC on it by the end of the charge phase, which means that if you have charged that unit, they fight first in the fight phase, and they can automatically then turn on Sustain 2. And if they have the attached Biologous Putrefier, that Sustain 2 triggers on 5-ups as well, thanks to their stratagem, their melee stratagem. And they'll blender like basically whatever, especially if they're +1, if they're reducing your save by 1. Or you can subtract weapon skill and then also debuff the hit whirl with Nurglings as well. If you're playing all melee stuff, that it has a tough time accessing Nurglings, so you might not be able to knock out the Nurgling squads that are hiding behind them, and then those things will also be affecting you. So these guys, like, if you're not shooting at them, are kind of just unmovable in melee, holding down like a mid-board objective, and that's I imagine part of the rationale there. Seems pretty good. I think I said multiple bad days for Fence Alvarez. Yeah, he. We had a little bit of an infamous game over on the Twitch channel where Magnus got deployed in line of sight of Armiger Helvrin, and it got the Castigator Bondsman for +1 AP, and it shot him and just one tap, and then he flipped into a Temporal Flux on the top of 1, but he was just in line of sight, so he wasn't -1 damage, and then the Armiger Helvrin one-shot him. It's like 8 shots, 8 hits, 8 wounds. You out of here. On your invuln, you roll a little below average and you're dead. See ya. You're gone. Get out of here. Yeah, it was a little funny. That was against with a fairly infamous Thousand Suns player too, which makes I think it even spicier. Infamous in not a good way. Death Guard Destructor so good, yeah. Yeah, it feels like Predators are kind of like and honestly, it feels like more recently, and maybe some of it's because of points changes, but I think a lot of it's just been meta stuff. A lot of the old school like shooting platforms, especially for these other factions, are seeing a little bit more play. I have a Patreon video coming out recently, or shortly, should be out tomorrow, but it talk about taking guns in World Eaters lists, and I think like digging into the bench of these kind of like high flexibility shooting platforms is pretty useful. They're even, I mean, have been seeing play of Space Marine Destructors in Ironstorm Spearhead. Whether we still see that, I don't know, because Ironstorm got debuffed, but it is cool to see the Predators get drug out of the basement. Damned Legion, Deathwatch Army, Vanguard Detachment, Watchmaster, Lieutenant with Shadowmaster, and Calidus. Yeah, you get 3. You get 3 CP taxes. Yeah, you can also do it in Space Wolves, because that guy Bjorn the Fell-Handed, excuse me, also has a CP tax. So you can triple tap, you can triple dip on the CP tax there too. It's obviously a little bit more of a commitment in Space Wolves, because you have to take a big expensive character dreadnought instead of just like a little Watchmaster who's already good. But it is a funny meme. I do like that. I do like that a lot. You also get good infantry squads to teleport around in Deathwatch as well. All right, so let's talk about some Tyranids. Undefeated Tyranids, chat. Who would have thunk? Who would have thunk after all the naysaying about how bad Tyranids are now? Oh, Gargoyles went up 5 points. Faction's dead. Everyone's still making them work. So, I'm curious to see how Tyranids, like, if Orks end up being a big meta decider, I'm curious to see how Tyranids pair up, because Tyranids are not particularly well defended against aggressive melee armies, except that they are probably the best single army in the game at screening. Full stop, end of story, and especially screening Orks, because, little known fact, if you have Spore Mines, whether you bought them, they're spawned by a Spore Assist or spawned by a Biovore, within 6 inches of them, they have an aura that prevents the beginning or ending of advances, meaning that Ork armies, when they call Wa, cannot advance into Spore Mines, like, defensively placed swarm mines in order to charge you. So you can actually artificially restrict their movement with those things. Plus, you can dump enormous amounts of gargoyles around their army and prevent them from moving forward. So, like, I don't know how good they are at killing orcs or surviving orcs, but they are really good at not getting hit by orcs. And that might be actually, like, you know, very meaningful in that matchup. They probably restrict orcs movement the most out of any army, if I assume so. 4 CP for a reroll. Yeah. If you triple tax the command reroll, just absolutely brutal. Probably need more warriors. Warriors definitely good. Warriors will kill 1 orc unit. The problem is that if they have a fight on death represented, they probably just kill you back. So Tyranid warriors are not. They're here for a good time, not a long time. But this list is running. So this is an unending swarm with old One Eye in it, which means it's already spicy. Mark Parker, by the way, running this list. 20 gargoyles. So we do the unending swarm thing where we auto 6 advance, and this is why they're so good at screening. You move 12, auto 6 advance. So you move 18, shoot, move another 6. So you've moved for 1 CP because there's no Hive Tyrant. You've moved 24 inches across the table with a 20 model unit that's gonna spread and like it's like flipping a blanket. You're gonna flip a blanket and it's gonna like settle down and contour to your opponent's entire army. So literally nothing in their army moves like more than 2 inches. And then you just follow it up with all the other idiots. 100 Termagants, is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 100 Termagants, Jesus Christ. Plus a Carnifex unit for some shooting. They took Crushing Claws, though. Okay, so we're kind of clearing infantry with these guys. They have Strangle Web, so they have the Spine Fists, so they're firing a potential Sustain 2 Twin-Linked weapon. So they're okay at clearing light infantry with those. Plus they have Flamers and the little Blast Gun. The Carnifexes are very pointed at blowing up like knights and stuff that could otherwise just like stomp its way through an Unending Swarm army. And then we have triple Exocrine Maleceptor Venom Thropes in the back, which you're probably never going to touch because there's 100 Termagants body blocking you from getting there. Fair enough. I like the inclusion of a. I think you need this sort of inclusion. The Exocrine Maleceptor sort of wombo combo. I like the Carnifexes in there as well, but that's important because what typically happens is that like you can't just go all in on the swarm things, in my opinion, in Unending Swarm, because you hit the bad matchups that are good at clearing swarms and they just get vaporized. So you need the heavy armor to both act as a little bit more of a defensive core, but also to actually output damage. The other interesting thing about the Carnifex is I wonder if they just board deployed or if they got rapid ingressed, because the other benefit of being really good at screening is you're also really good at preventing other people from screening. Like you're probably just going to subsume all of their little like idiot scout infiltrator units, or just shoot them with exocrines or whatever, and you've hopefully prevented most of their army from moving out of their deployment zone with the gargoyles. So they're not in a position to stop you ingressing on like immediately battle round 2 and getting into whatever you want. I wouldn't be too surprised. There's also like there's a funny interaction with the Carnifexes and ingress, because you can ingress into a position where a triggered blood surge movement would only move you into line of sight of a single, or would retain you in line of sight of a single enemy. So if they decide to shoot at you, you just get an easier charge on them next turn. That's usually a position that you can make happen. No Hierophant chant. I'm sorry. Yeah, and no Tervigon. The Tervigon, I don't know. I think the Tervigon's kind of a meme. Like, you can wombo combo out the Tervigon with the Termagant shot, like the Termagant unit, but without hit rerolls, I don't know if it's actually that worth it. The combo there being that in Unending Swarm, you can give units of 20 plus models critical 5-ups to hit and sustained 1. And the Tervigon gives Termagants in an aura lethal. So you can be firing, like 20 Termagants is firing 20-ish shots. It's slightly less than 20 shots because they have their special weapons, but their special weapons fire more. And they, you should be getting like 7 lethal sustains out of that, which is very cute, but it's like not, it sounds like when you think about it on paper, you're like, oh, it's a fire discipline combo, except it's not, because the weapons that you're firing are not very good to begin with, and also don't get hit rerolls at all, so like, you don't get the full power out of it. No harpies. Maliceptor not really good at dealing damage. They are good at dealing damage. They're good at against like medium armor stuff. They're not good against super high toughness like T12, but they'll kill like they'll kill aggressors like literally all day. And the other the thing about the Maliceptor they have to consider is that they probably don't die on one swing back. At least if they do, your opponent has to put most of their army into it because they're super hard to kill. So they will most likely get multiple turns of applying damage to your opponent. Maliceptors are actually fairly offensively oriented. They're just like kind of an attrition piece more than like a alpha, you know what I mean? Unlike the Exocrine where they're just gonna they're like cheap and just put really, really efficient shots into something. The Maliceptor is like more expensive and shoots you, but then probably gets to shoot you again because you can't kill him. Isn't the Vanguard enhancement the only ability in the game that allows you to redeploy 3 units after first turn is decided? It's not the only. It's not the only ability like that in the game, but it is. Many of them redeploy before, but that one doesn't. Yeah, I think it's like a coin flip. Typically it tends to be stuff that you pay for, like the kind of the. What's the word? The trend is that if you have it as an additional ability on your datasheet, like the Primus gives his unit hit rerolls and then also gives you a redeploy, but his redeploy is like the worst version. Like Lord Solar gives you orders and CP and then also a redeploy, so his is the worst version. But the ones that you like pay for or that's all that your unit does, so like the Phobos Captain or the Tyranid thing, they tend to be the better version. I think it's kind of how they've oriented the thing. Toxic would be good if it's modeled and suck, yeah. I could not imagine moving that thing around the table. All right. Let's talk about some new stuff, chat. Let's talk about some frickin' orcs. Ruben Fernandez running the Bully Boyz. I'm gonna get my Bully Boyz document ready so I know what we're looking at here. So this is the Knob and Mega Knob focused detachment. I'm gonna move my screen around so it's easier to see. His list is called Fun. Fun for who is my question. All right. He's got triple War Boss, triple Mega Armor War Boss. One is the teleporter, so he can deep strike with his unit. Boys, more boys, more boys. Mostly for high OC stuff. 6 trucks. Yeah, so the classic sort of truck rush. Gretchen, triple Mega Knobs. Just 1 Knob squad. And triple store points for utility. So no Snickrot, which is interesting. So it looks like we're probably, I guess, just... Oh, it's all... Yeah, so we're putting 1... War Boss in the Knob squad almost assuredly, because you want to give them the -1 to be wounded. And then filling out the Mega Knobs, which means 2 War Bosses are probably just chilling in with the boys teams to give them +1 to hit. It does so the benefit of the Bully Boyz is that you get 2 turns of Wa. After you call your first Wa, you can call a special Wa. Which only affects War Boss, Knob, and Mega Knobs units. So if you attach the War Bosses into the boys squads, they will become a War Boss unit because they have a War Boss. I believe that they're War Boss keyworded. Maybe that's just the unit type. I should double check that though. Although, like, Knobs rule, so you probably want the Knobs. The War Boss is indeed keyworded War Boss. Yeah, it's not just his name. So the Ork Boys will also get the benefits of the Bully Boys, the special WA. And then I lost my place. Cool. I don't know if there's too much else to say about that. The Mega Knobs are kind of the highlight right now. They are like super tough. They're 2+ base armor save. They don't have an invuln save outside the WA saves, so they're 5 up. But you can use... They have a 1 CP strat, Hulking Brutes in the shooting phase to get Armor of Contempt. A -1 AP, and then they have a 4+ Feel No Pain as long as the WA is active, which is for 2 battle rounds of the game, they'll have 4+ Feel No Pain. So probably, like, they'll call it turn 2, probably, and then they'll get it turn 2 and 3, and hopefully for them, the game has been decided at that point, and it doesn't really matter if they have a Feel No Pain. I imagine that a big part of the strategy for dealing with this kind of army will be trying to outweight the WA, because those guys lose their invuln and lose their Feel No Pain. So they actually they go down like way harder once the WA is over. And if they're able to sink them into you too fast, then it's going to be problematic. They also get a Fight on Death on a 3-up on the WA turn or a 5-up other turns. Extended Consolidations, hit rerolls, and they can do Mortals on the charge. And they go bonk. Oh, the strats only knobs and mega knobs? Yeah. Yeah, the strats are specifically knob and mega knob keyworded. I don't know if you're like that excited about giving like hit rerolls to a like a unit of dudes that hit on 2s anyway. So it's the knobs would be the ones you're using the strats on anyway. So I don't know if that's like as big of a downside, to be fair. Put as much in strat reserve. Yeah, the problem is you run into an issue where like they throw the smaller units forward and they screen out your strat reserves really well. Like the other thing to consider, right, is that these Ork armies are super high like unit volume. They have tons and tons of just individual units, like 6 trucks with units in them, plus 3 Storm Boys, plus Gretchen, plus what is probably a boys squad out in reserve themselves. So they're going to be all over the table. And once those trucks disembark and they're charging, they can use them to screen as well. So if you're like strategic reserving a ton, it's going to be tough. I think you need like concentric layers of screens. Honestly, the interesting thing about the Ork Codex is that, or at least the Bully Boys and maybe Green Tide Army to a lesser extent, is that it feels like the classic solutions to Orks have not actually changed. So the armies and the archetypes that have already been good against Orks in the past are going to continue to be good against Orks in the future, which it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of interesting. It means that I don't know if we have to shift our Ork fighting paradigms, which is a little bit nice. Means the boys won't fight on death. Yeah, and honestly, the D3+3 consolidation after destroying an enemy unit is, or up to 6-inch consolidation if you're on WAD turn, which you probably are, is meaningfully. That's meaningful for boys because boys are their high OC units, right? So not having access to that is unfortunate, but that's okay. You are much cheaper than, and you still get a delivery system for a boss, which is fine. All right. So that was the biggest event, the biggest new points event of the weekend, the April Grain of Salt. Can move over to some other events. Ooh, little space ships to talk about. We got Ashley Thompson, T5S2 star Ashley Thompson over here, going undefeated at the Grim Series 3. This was 28 players, so significantly smaller, but not too much. And we, again, chat, undefeated Tyranids. What's going on? Now, Ashley, I think, was playing Tau, and I believe that didn't even submit a list. All right, fair enough. Oh, wait, no. The Space Wolves didn't submit a list either. No! No! I was getting all geared up to talk about Space Wolves. Why? The Tau is probably outdated already, but we'll just have to talk about more Tyranids, chat. Unfortunate. Ah, what a terrible time. What a What a horrible thing to have to do. That sucks. All right. So, we are, this is Garrett Gep? Garrett Gep. I'm going to go with Gep. Running Invasion Fleet. Got a Hive Tyrant with Perfectly Adapted, a Neuro Tyrant, and an Adaptive Biology Tervigon. So, floating reroll on the Hive Tyrant. And he's all melee. I love this Hive Tyrant build, by the way. Every time I see the one Venom Cannon on the Hive Tyrant, I'm like, he's alright. This is a little silly. It doesn't. I mean, nobody ever takes damage from that thing. But the extra 4 attacks in melee with a reroll and with like sustained 1 probably, that's the spice. He late game so much harder with the extra 2 damage attacks. We have a Tervigon with Adaptive Biology, so the Feel No Pain that increases when he takes damage. 4 units of Termagants. Now, I think one thing that's happened, and this is made like a kind of a funny little knock-on effect, is that a lot of Tyranid lists, or at least the ones that I've just peeked at momentarily, I haven't read through all of them for this week, but a lot of them cut their gargoyles, or at least cut some of their gargoyles, and ended up just by having more points to spend because they didn't spend as much on gargoyles, and instead they're just taking Termagants, who aren't as good as gargoyles, but they do fulfill a similar role. They're little units that you can throw away, and they're high OC, so they can take objectives, and they also have a reactive move. So in some situations, they can be really, really hard to actually get rid of, because they're using them as screens, and your opponent moving around the screens is just switching where your screens are. So as a screening unit, I'm not going to say that they're better than gargoyles, but they are differently abled, I guess. Supposed to talk about Necrons? We'll talk about Necrons. There'll be some Necrons. We got some Barbgaunts. Good at 55 points for sure. 11 points a model for these guys' rules. Got a D6 damage suppressing blast weapon. Biovore. 1 Haruspex. Cool to see him back on the table. Double Maliceptor. Only 1 Neurolictor. A Norn Emissary. Okay. 3 Ripper Swarms. We have a Biovore. Yeah. So lots and lots of secondary scoring with the Ripper Swarms as well. Also good for just like screening out backline. Vine Ryan Sleepers. Now, I think another thing that we could see become more relevant in the future, if we're fighting against like the lighter orc stuff, are the Von Ryan Sleepers. They have Fight First baked into their datasheet, and they're a multi-model infiltrator unit, so you can use them to screen movement on, annoying areas of the table. And if your opponent charges them, they have to commit hefty stuff because if they're not shooting them, but if they're like orcs and they're basically only melee, then they have to charge something at them to actually get rid of them. But like a boys squad won't do it. You can't just send 5 boys or 3 storm boys or whatever, because the Von Ryan Sleepers will swing first and crack half that unit down before you get to do anything. And there's this not insignificant chance that you then fail to kill the Von Ryan Sleepers. So, and then they get to do the same thing next turn. So you have to like approach them with care, and especially because they're in invasion fleet, a lot of they're getting that lethal or sustained hits on that Fight First too. So whatever you've chosen as your sort of doctrine ability, they're going to benefit from that as well, buffing their attacks. And it's kind of a problem, I think, for these really aggressive melee lists. Now, the other problem there, right, is that if you have then charge, if you place the Von Ryan Sleepers aggressively, your opponent then charges to kill them. Whatever they've charged with is now no longer out of line of sight, which means that all the backline shooting, there's no exocrines in this one, but you have the Norn Emissary with the like laser cannons out of its eyeballs, and the Maliceptors can then vaporize whatever jumps in out of cover to actually kill the Von Ryan. Plus zone throws as well to kill the Von Ryan Sleepers. So I think for 75 points, the amount of utility and board control they give you against melee enemies is really interesting, and I think we're probably, if we're looking at a melee meta, we will probably see them quite a bit more often. More 1,000 Suns, please. Maybe more 1,000 Suns. I'm on a bit of a 1,000 Suns kick. We could talk about 1,000 Suns for ages. Yeah, the Tervigon's getting lethals with the Tervigons. It's all right. I think the Tervigon's mostly there is just a big idiot. Like with the adaptive biology, she's like 18 wounds, right? With a potentially 4+ feel no pain, which is really hard to chew through. That one's it's really tough. As long as you string your damage out, which is the important part. I feel like the Assimilator is better in terms of damage. Yeah. I think that the Assimilator... I don't know. I think that there's arguments to be made for both Norns. The problem in my head... I think they're both too expensive, but the Assimilator being more expensive than the Emissary is really weird, because it does do more damage, but it's easier to kill, and it doesn't have the same utility on its ranged attacks. So there is a meaningful difference between the two, and you wouldn't take each of them in all situations. And so the fact that they're, like, just pointed on a hierarchy kind of doesn't make any sense. I don't know. Would I bring 3 Leapers over 5 Genestealers in Vanguard? It depends on what else is in your list, I think. I think I would, if you just have 5 Genestealers, just like as just sitting there, I think I would. Von Ryan's Leapers are very good in Vanguard Onslaught. Like, don't get me wrong, those things rule. Genestealer is also good, but I think the Von Ryan's Leaper is a little bit more useful. But Genestealers, if you're taking the Broodlord and you got the whole boat, I do think, like, as a punching unit, they're pretty solid. Simulator versus Emissary. Emissary is 100% not a take. I think it gets much more difficult if you're talking about Synaptic Nexus, I think, because the 4+ invulnerable save doesn't really, like, do quite as much if you have access to the -1 AP strat. Because at that point they end up, you have to get to like AP 5 or so to actually make the difference be worthwhile, and then you're like, okay, whatever. The Heroic Intervention is also very good, yeah, for sure. 100% agree. All right, let's dive into the Dice Drop April. This one was a 24-player event, and whoever was asking about Adeptus Mechanicus earlier, we have answered your prayers. We have some Adeptus Mechanicus to talk about. Seth Piper, running AdMech, who's, I think he played Black Templars back in the day. All right, let's dive into Death Guard. We already talked about Death Guard previously. Let's talk about him again momentarily. This list is running triple Biologus Putrefier. So 3 Grenade guys. How many Foul Blight Spawn? 2 Foul Blight Spawn plus Typhus plus 2 Terminator Sorcerers. Death Guard Terminator Sorcerers are 70 points. I thought that they were more, but they're not. That's a deal. Oh my god. Yeah, so those guys are super good. They have that they just bring in with them really strong ranged attack plus like good utility. So they're you can just like rapid ingress them or deep strike them into places to do secondaries, or to get them in a position to project the contagion auras. And then they also do reasonable damage once they get there. Plus they're not the easiest thing to kill because they can be minus some damage in melee with their defensive psychic power. So 70 points for that guy is really good. I was sort of assuming he was costing the same as the other like Terminator Psychers. He's a cheap boy. Hot damn. Plus Typhus also in there as a cheap boy. Lots of deep striking utility. 3 10-man Plague Marine squads. So we're missing out on 1 Foul Blight Spawn on 2 of them. So we have 2 fight firsting guys, and then all 3 of them get Biologus Putrefires. Again, ridiculous anvils for the defeating melee armies. 3 Death Guard Rhinos to put those guys in. Some cultists, just to be cultists. 2 Hellbrutes. So yeah, these guys got a points decrease, and they do benefit ranged attacks fairly well, but I don't think we're taking them for that. I think we're just taking them to be beat sticks. When they shoot people, they can apply contagions to them, but they're not taking long range guns. They're just taking multi-meltas and heavy flamers. So I think they're just going to embed into this big braille, like sort of degenerate brick of idiots, and punch people with the fists. Plus 3 units of 3 Death Shroud Terminators. So are we actually just attaching the Sorcerers? I think we are. I think we're just attaching the Sorcerers into the Death Shroud Terminators plus Typhus. So they can be -1. If you turn on the -1 weapon skill aura, you can be -1 to be hit and -1 damage. And then Typhus makes his unit -1 to be hit all the time. And then can also make you -1 weapon skill. So in melee, you're -2 to be hit. Although you don't get the -1 damage unless you pay for Disgustingly Resilient. So tight, yeah. These are 3 like super tanky little Dash Rat Terminator bricks, which is rad. 2 units of Nurglings as well, in case they have hit buffs. Plus, you can just deep strike more stuff. I wonder if there is a little synergy where you can tag people with Contagions with the Hellbrutes and then get them with the baby Flamers on the Death Shroud. I think for the most part this list is going to be very aggressive, though. I don't think it's going to be playing around with the ranged combos very much. All right. Let's dive into some new stuff. Let's talk about some Chaos Knights. Well, we're on a Chaos kick. Blake Glokler went 3-0 with Chaos Knights. It's War Dogs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Brigands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Carnivores. A Beast of Nurgle. It's kind of fun. Little regenerating guy. Plus 3 Nurglings. Okay, well, you know, sometimes if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Just play a bunch of War Dogs. It's a rough time coming because they're dogs. Get it? Art. All right. Adeptus Mechanicus, Seth Piper, undefeated with them. Playing Rad Zone Core. Tigris Dominus, 1 Manipulus with the Autoclavic Denunciation, so the attack buff. Manipulus with Peerless Eradicator, so sustained hits. So he's sustained and lethal to his unit. And a Techno-Archaeologist with Radial Suffusion. So he's got the 12-inch anti-deep strike bubble and then extends the distance at which the rad hits people off of their deployment zones. Woof woof. We've got 2 units of Rangers, 2 units of Vanguard, 2 units of 3 Iron Strider Ballistari, 2 units of 6 Cataphront Breachers for the Manipulate to jump into, a Sicarian Infiltrator unit, 2 Sicarian Infiltrator units, plus 2 units of 3 Sidonian Dragoons. So do we have a... Yeah, I guess we can jump the Dominus into one of the Skitarii units. We don't have any transports for them, so they're just hanging out. Who needs them? Who needs transports? But we're then running, yeah, 12 total Iron Striders, plus 2 forward operating units to block movement. And then 2 Cataphront Breachers just to sit back and shoot. I think it's pretty classic Rad Zone Core. We're not really reinventing the like a weird anti-gravity like generator, I guess, but if it ain't broke, you know. But there's your AdMech fix for the day. Some Rad Zone Core. I think it's definitely... Somebody asked me the other day which detachment is most played in Adeptus Mechanicus. And I was going to say, I think it's probably clearly Skitarii Hunter cohort. But the amount that people diverge from Skitarii Hunter within the faction and play sometimes Explorator Maniple, sometimes Rad Zone Core, and occasionally you see like the Cybernetica detachment. It's pretty often, but I think it might just be kind of a what's the word? Like a visualization error, because you get so few Adeptus Mechanicus like percolating to the top that I think, and they have such a small player base right now too, that what you get is kind of random out of the faction. So like looking at the top factions or the top lists in the game, you don't really get a good sense of what's actually being played. All right, with that we can dive into the next one. The Spring Incursion. Take a drink real quick. All right. 2 Astra Militarum lists at the top. Oh, is this an actual incursion? This might be an actual incursion game. Oh no, it's 2,000 points. Just kidding. All right, cool. I got a little scared for a second. Sometimes I run into these because I don't look at every list, and sometimes I just look at the list so I can determine what points season they're using. And sometimes I hit them, and they're like 1,000 points by the time I get to the end of the event. I'm like, no, wasted my time. All right, so somebody's playing Krieg and somebody's playing Armageddon Steel Legion. They're both taking Death Riders, or they're both taking Death Corps, I guess. So this is double Marshal, Lord Solar, Platoon Command Squad, double Primera Psyker. So we're taking 2 Death Corps of Krieg bricks. So we put the Marshal in there for the Feel No Pain. They can regenerate with their Medic Pack, and they get a 4+ Invulnerable save with the Primera Psykers. So they're just super sticky. And I think like that the problem with Militarum so often, and we talk about this like every week, I feel like, is that they have so much of a tough time preventing enemies from getting to their tanks and taking the middle of the table. And Bulgrin were just like the answer to that. But Bulgrin got upcharged so heavily. The people might be looking for other ways to accomplish the same thing, and this is definitely a way to do it. We're running Run Baneblade. Sick. 2 Leman Rust Demolishers, 1 Leman Rust Exterminator, 3 Scout Sentinels to buff. No artillery. Is that right? Not a single artillery. Just have a mortar in the Platoon Command Squad, I think. I don't even think we do. Plasma Gun, Melta Gun, Master Box. Yeah. Indirect fire? Who needs it? I'm going to directly fire at you when I enter your deployment zone with 40 Death Corps troopers. Kazarkin, I don't think they got taken out back. They just got upcharged. I think they're like you might take 1 to 2 units instead of the 3+ every time. They went up 20%, which is a lot, but the amount of value you got from that unit was kind of extreme, so I don't know. They did get discounts on Rough Riders and Leman Russ. And I think Rough Riders are maybe a direction to go in. And it sounds like once we look at the second list, Death Riders, like we discussed at length, was it last week, I think? We talked about Death Riders quite a bit. Might be taking their place. We'll see. But also, I think a lot of people are moving towards the tank-focused builds instead of the artillery, because the artillery is so expensive, and the defenses for it are so expensive, that you can just like windmill slam a bunch of Leman Russ now. Because almost every variant besides the Demolisher got discounted. Yeah, you don't actually really need the mortar, to be honest. It's just useful because you can field... well, I should say, the mortar is the most useful if you are running artillery already, because it allows you to plink the thing that your artillery is going to shoot at. If you don't have any artillery, it is almost inconceivable that you don't have multiple units pointing at the same enemy unit anyway to unlock overlapping fields. So... like, who cares? The other thing is that it's not running Ursula Creed, so we don't get the strat for free, and it's probably banking CP for reinforcements on the 3 Death Corps squads. So I think that overlapping fields is probably just not part of its game plan. I would be surprised if that stratagem got used hyper often in this list in particular. It has the Exterminator if you want to pump an AP bonus into something before the Leman Russ go in or the Baneblade goes in to kill it. And I don't know if you need overlapping fields on top of that. I'm sure that at some point it does get used, but I think that he's just going to pay the 2 CP. He's just going to, bite the bullet and shoot him with a Scout Sentinel or shoot him with a single Death Corps unit or something in order to unlock the AP bonus. Did I see the list? I went 401 in Squeak City? Probably. I talked about Squeak City on my video yesterday. But Squeak City used old points values. Chat, we're over them. Get out of here. Alright, let's talk about the other Astra Militarum list. This one's running a Death Rider Squadron Commander, so we're already in for some spice. Gaunt's Ghosts for utility, Lord Solar Leontis. This one's in a Platoon Command Squad with the Mortar. And Grand Strategist on the platoon command squad itself. That's interesting. Okay. Plus Iron Hand Strachan. Oh, it's so cool to see Iron Hand Strachan. I've been harping on this guy for so long. He's so good. He has 2 order issues for any regiment unit. He's not restricted to Catachan Jungle Fighters. And he himself hits like a Space Marine captain for 55 points. He's like absolutely like wild in melee. He's full hit and wound rerolls on the charge, and he gets anti-monster 4, I think. He's like kind of insane. And he has, I think, 6 2-damage attacks, if I remember correctly, just off the top of my head. For 55 points. I was like, why aren't people playing this guy? He's nuts. All right. I don't know if he's jumping into the Catachan Jungle Fighter squad, but the place that I really liked him is disembarking from transports, because you get he has 2 orders, and you get them immediately once he disembarks, so like he could just act as a little lone operative guy. He's not actually lone operative, but like I'm gonna shoot at him. I don't know. And he just jumps in and out of transports and constantly like issues more orders. And we do have a Chimera, so that literally might be what's happening. All right, infantry squad, Catachan Jungle Fighter squad, a Chimera. We're still running Bulgrin. All the big Bulgrin squad, and a 10-man Death Rider squad. All right, so we talked about these guys last week. With the squadron commander, they get infiltration. So you get to just like put them on your opponent's line, basically. You also have the Gaunt's Ghosts, so you could use them for additional, at least forward deploy, like blocking. If and then they have they can be sticky to take out because I believe they have a reactive move, right? So you can put them in front of your opponent's army, and your opponent tries to move, and then you just like reactive move away, or out of line of sight. And that is all keeping the enemy off of the Earthshaker plus Medusa Carriage Battery. Oh, that's the only artillery. Interesting. Okay. I thought there was going to be a bunch of artillery here because we have so much front line, but we're just taking a bunch of guns. Medusa Carriage Battery, Earthshaker Carriage Battery, 2 Rogel Dorns, and a Scout Sentinel plus a Calidus Assassin. Oh, this is old points, though. Did I get this wrong? I don't think so. This guy's paying new points. Huh. I don't know. Oh, he's playing down. That's why. He just didn't pay it. Are the Bulgrin the right cost? I assume that they are. I don't actually know, though. Grab my data slate real quick. I forgot how much they went up to. Oh no, they went up 20. This list might be over, Chad. I don't know if there's anything missing that got cut out for the points differences. Or if the event had any special considerations. Yeah, that's a little awkward. Well, I think I'm high that you think Manticores are still good? No, I think Manticores are great. I definitely don't think you're crazy. I think it's unfortunate that they keep upcharging the artillery for the artillery faction, but to some extent, what can you do? Only 10 points more I don't think is going to break the bank for Manticores. I think like it is tough for the other units that they upcharged to recover. So stuff like the Bulgrin and the Kazarkin, which was like taken in multiples, like that is really tough because you can't really pay like an extra, 150 points for your front line. But the Manticore going up 10, I don't think is going to break the bank, right? You'll switch out some other stuff and maybe drop a support unit, and you'll still keep your Manticores. It's only a whatever, like 4% increase versus the, or not even that, right? It's 180, 1 out of 18. Yeah, like 4%. Versus the Kazarkin and stuff that was like a 20% increase. All right. Let's talk about Necrons. 1+, this is your time to shine. We're talking about some Hypercrypt Legion. Some newly upcharged Hypercrypt Legion. With a 190-point Uncharted of the Void Dragon. Ooh, 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 that's a spicy points value right there. But we have Skorpek Lords coming back into the game. Who remembers in 9th edition when everyone played the Skorpek Lord? He wasn't even good, but you still played him. Because Skorpek Destroyers were like... Well, I guess you didn't actually play the Lord. You played just the Skorpek Destroyers. But they were like the only good melee that the faction had. And they were just kind of really cheap. Imhotep the Stormlord, a Locust Lord with Dimensional Overseer, Orokin the Diviner, plus a Skorpek Lord with the Osteoclave Fulcrum. A 20 of Necron Warriors. The Orkin in the code. He's in the Codex right now, right? He didn't get like Legend or anything. I guess we just haven't seen him because like the other stuff is good. He had an old silly model. Yeah, it's just a guy. And still gives his invulnerable save. Yeah. Necrons are doomed. Doomed, I tell you. Was my first army? It depends on how far back you go. I owned a Space Marine when I was a kid, like a little kid. My dad bought me 2 Blood Angels Tactical Marines and a little metal blister pack. And I had those for ages. And I think I had like 1 combat squad at one point. But then I owned like some random models. But then I think the first actual army I had was Tau. But I was only like 1,000 points maybe. And then the first one I collected seriously was Tyranids when I was in like high school. Spent all my summer job money on Tyranids, as you're supposed to do. As all your family will tell you, all the adults will tell you. That's a good investment in the future. All right. So we've got Osteoclave Fulcrum with a Skorpek Lord, so that gives him Deep Strike. 20-man Necron Warrior Squad, Orkin the Diviner. Can dual attach with Imhotep. And we have a Locust Lord running Dimensional Overseer. A Locust Lord, okay. No Arisen Tyrant. A Doomstalker, big Locust Destroyer unit to for the Locust Lord to jump into. 1 Doomsday Ark, 1 Locust Heavy Destroyer, 1 Monolith Skorpek Destroyers. So I think we're probably just using... We can turn 1 Deep Strike the Skorpek Destroyers into like a really annoying place, right? Because they have a Osteoclave Fulcrum, if you pull them, they can drop immediately. And then you can like cycle the warriors out of the monolith and they have an invuln save, which makes them a little sticky. They don't have the double move though, but they probably don't need it, honestly. And then you just hit them with Locusts coming in turn 2 plus Skorpeks and hope that kind of like nukes them. And then you got a good backline shooting. A Doomstalker plus a Doomsday Ark plus the Void Dragon. Just like hanging out in the middle somewhere with Cosmic Precision. Is probably pretty good. Yeah. This list dodges the... I guess because it's not focusing on the Cryptex, it dodges the most points increased units in the Codex, right? You're taking the Monolith, which went up a little bit, but not too much, and you're taking the Void Dragon, but you've cut Nightbringer and you've cut all like the Plasmancers and the Chronomancers, and just switch them for Orkan. So you're actually And the Scorpex went down in value quite a bit. I think that unit went down by like 30 points. So you're basically trying to dodge the points upcharge as much as possible. Definitely a cool way to play the faction. And I guess like you also secondarily get the Monolith and Scorpec synergy where they can pop out and then Dimensional Corridor to charge immediately upon coming out of the Monolith. But it definitely feels like you could threat overload someone pretty heavily by putting 20 warriors plus all the Scorpex and Locusts in their face and then saying like, all right, here go. Can you kill all of this plus a Monolith plus a Void Dragon? If not, you lose. Tried using Scorpex out of a Monolith and it's just blah, asking too many things out of the Monolith each turn. I think maybe. I think that like, if that was the primary game plan, you wouldn't put Clay Fulcrum on the Scorpec Lord. Unless it's just a points filler, which it might be. I think that those guys are just going to Rapid Ingress. Or just, like, teleport and hold for a turn and then go punch your opponent. Like, they can get picked up end of your opponent's first turn and then dropped immediately in the middle of the table. And then they, like, if you've already put the warriors there, even if your opponent can kill the warriors in the Monolith, that's probably the entirety of their army, right? So putting other destroyers in the middle is just like, you know, splitting fire even more in most situations. And obviously, like, you get to choose when they go down. So you could just not put them down if it's not safe. Or you could hold them for a Rapid Ingress or something, and then they just wander in and like, clean up after the warriors, basically. I think they counterpunch after the warriors is what I would be expecting them to do. Lord +3 is a good trading piece. The Lord gives them devastating, is that right? Oh no, lethal. Oh, they're devastating from the plasma site, and then he does mortal wounds. Yeah, I can see that. Because he himself is probably good for 6 damage on something, almost assuredly. Maybe 8, or yeah, maybe 8 damage. And then the rest of the unit can probably finish off. How much is he now? He's like 90 points, and the Scorpex themselves are like 80. It's weird that he's more than the unit. Let's check my math there. Oracle, show me how many points these guys are. Oh, they're 9. They're 9. Oh, he went down 20 points. Holy shit. Okay. Yeah, so he is less expensive than 170. That's a pretty penny, but it's not too bad. Solo Lord and Awakened? Yeah, I like that. His leadership benefit's kind of trash, to be honest. Lethal hits is like the least exciting ability you can get, unless you have hit rerolls. But they don't have hit rerolls, so yeah. Yeah, the impact attack is good, though. I like the impact attack. Definitely helpful. All right. Let's dive into our next one. Another 20-player event. With some more Astra Militarum to talk about. The Dragon's Horde 2K. Oh, I spilled some water. Sorry, chat. Heroes on the charge. Oh, okay. Fair enough. Yeah, I misspoke there. Sorry. Show us how much you see Scorpec Destroyers. We talked about them the other day, but I forgot what they did. All right. This one, interesting Black Templars result here. 2 40s in the win bracket. That, although it looks like they probably played a very low scoring first round. Everybody scored really low in the first round, except for Benjamin Linsky over here. He nailed it, but everyone else was like even the winning bracket like 60s and 70s. So it's probably just a low scoring round 1. Round 2 being 40-point win is pretty shocking. That might mean that the games went to time. Sometimes RTTs you get you don't get games with a clean resolution, so they end up just like scoring out at round 3 or whatever, end up with a low score. We are back to Ironstorm Spearhead. And this is... Oh, yeah, it's running Primaris Crusaders. I was like, saw a 140-point Crusader squad. I was like, whoa, that's cheap. But no, Primaris Crusaders. Soup. Cool. High Master Helbracht, Tech Brain with Target Augury, and the Emperor's Champion. 1 base Intercessor squad. A Primaris Crusader squad. 2 10-mans of Primaris Crusaders. Oh, excuse me. 1 Impulsor. Who's that bringing? The Intercessors, I guess. Interesting. Plus 2 Ballistic Dreadnoughts, a Black Templar Valiant, Black Templar Repulsor, Land Raider, 5-man Sword Brethren, a little bit of BB Sword Brethren squad. Oh, so that could also be where the Impulsor's going, actually. That's probably what's in there. Plus a Repulsor Executioner. So you can do the Sword Brethren plus Helbracht to buff up their lethals, or their criticals. We have a Land Raider for the for one of the Crusader squads, plus a Repulsor for the other Crusader squad, and then that's all being buffed up by the Tech Marine. Really combined arms. I appreciate that. Not all in on the multi-Melta Pintle vehicles, just getting floating rerolls. We're taking a little bit more of a combined arms approach with the high OC like chaff clears out of the transports rather than focusing on the Sword Brethren. So I think these were likely Sword Brethren in a previous version, and then those got upcharged, so they just turned into Primaris Crusaders. Sure, way worse at killing vehicles because they can't, they don't buff damage, but they are extremely good at clearing infantry. So you can use the big heavy guns to punch the big stuff, and then you're just using your infantry to trade on objectives with the little stuff, which does tend to be kind of a downside of the like classic vehicle-oriented Ironstorms, where everything's like you're just choking up on infantry and not taking only vehicles. You do end up getting contested on objectives pretty well, but having the an objective secured unit plus a bunch of super high OC infantry sweepers in the transports definitely, I think, helps that. That's cool. Always be clocking, yeah. It's just it's not like as much of a part of the culture in smaller, like on the small tables. So it just happens, right? People are just like, oh, I only play once every 2 months and I forget all the rules. But they're still, just fine at 40k. You just don't play very fast. Which is, it's good. It's good that there's still a competitive format for the people who don't play competitively too often. If you're not playing Righteous Crusaders, you're not playing Black Templar. I feel like the goalposts shift for like sub-faction purists every time. It's like, oh, you can't say you're in a sub-faction. You don't have any sub-faction units. So I go, okay, I took a couple sub-factions. Like, well, you didn't take enough of them. And you're like, all right, I took 20 Primaris Crusaders Helbracht to the Sword Brethren squad, plus a bunch of Black Templars vehicles. Do I count now? And they're like, you're not in the detachment. Like, stop. You can't count yourself as a sub-faction until, I don't know. Everything is in the in the supplement detachment, and only supplement units are played. I guess is probably where people will stop complaining. But even then, they'll be like, no, you're doing it wrong. I don't know. I think if you're taking any Black Templars units, you're in a Black Templars army, and that's how it works. I don't think you can nitpick too much from that. Tips for a first time big tournament: bring water and snacks. That was like a game changer for me. I would always like sort of burn out end of each day. And I was like, what's happening? And I realized I was just getting dehydrated. But if you bring a big water bottle, it's like a game changer. And like, I brought apples and like, granola bars and just like, basically pack like you're going on a hike. Because that's basically what a 40k tournament is. I had a fitness tracker on my app one time when I was going to a 40K tournament. And to be fair, it was at a particularly large store, and I did a lot of like just meandering between games. But I think I ended up walking or being on my feet for the equivalent of like a ridiculous amount of time. Like it was the equivalent of like 6 or 7 miles of walking, I think, is what the tracker told me, which was kind of insane. But that's basically like the mindset you should have going in, and your kind of like biological resources are being used differently because you are your brain burns like a lot of calories in like a high concentration game. So while it might not be quite as physically demanding, and it's not I'm not gonna say it's the same as heavy physical activity, but it's definitely like you will feel the effects of low calorie intake over the course of a 40K tournament for sure. If you don't have Sanguinary Guard, you're not a Blood Angels player. If you are not playing in Stormlance Task Force, you're not a Blood Angels player. But with only jump pack units. That's what I think. Sons of Sanguinius is too strong right now for it to be truly Blood Angels. You have to play the Blood Angels themed detachment that has nothing to do with Blood Angels and doesn't really work very well. Nearly the same caloric expense. Yeah, I don't want to make any like sort of like medical claims, but it definitely is. It is an enhanced caloric expense versus just doing nothing for sure. You are certainly engaging more of your body. All right. We are over here with Benjamin Lidsky, rocking some Astra Militarum, playing Lord Solar, Platoon Command Squad, 2 Demo, Tank Commanders, Ursula Creed, Kadisha Jungle Fighters, Infantry, 3 Chimeras. Ooh! Okay, I was like, this looks really boring. I was like, we got the Tank Commanders, we got Ursula, Lord Solar, the Mortar Team to do the thing we just talked about with their Fields of Fire. And then, okay, Kadisha Jungle Fighters are cool. The Kadisha Jungle Fighter, like, brick inside of Chimeras is really annoying. Like, Chimeras are just on the annoying, like, the side of slightly annoying to actually kill, that you don't really want to deal with them. And then once they disembark a bunch of OC2 idiots that can steal objectives and flamer your guys, you're like, no, this sucks. So that's all good, but then the rest of the list is just Leman Russ battle tanks. I expected to see like double Manticore and a bunch of like weird specialist infantry squads, but instead it's just taking nothing but Leman Russ. So we have 2 Leman Russ exterminators. So I love this actually. So the downside of the Leman Russ battle tank is that its AP is trash. The benefit is that they have baked in hit rerolls, which is unheard of in Astra Militarum. Those things are, getting rerolls to hit is like, oh my god, amazing. But Leman Russ have, and if I remember correctly, it is just the it's just like the Tempestus Scion ability where you get reroll once to hit, and then if you attack someone on an objective, it's full hit rerolls. Yeah, each time he attacks, it's reroll hits of 1, and then if he shoots on an objective marker, it's reroll hit rolls. The downside is that his battle cannon's AP 1. So in cover, you're like not doing anything. But we've included the Ursula Creed combo, so we can bump that to AP 2, and then we also have 2 of the Leman Russer Exterminators, so you can bump that to AP 3. So they're actually firing really high efficiency shooting. And if at some point you can, speaking of rerolls and lethal hits, right? You get lethal hits if you can stand still, and then you get rerolls to hit, so you have a better chance of hitting those lethals, which means you can punch into higher toughness stuff even better. Plus, you're super hard to kill on the crackback. You have a bunch of like a ton of vehicle targeting orders as well. 2 from Lord Sorleontis, 2 from the 2 tank commanders. So they're basically all going to be +1 to hit or extra movement, whatever you need. This list is cool. I think, I mean, given that all of these tanks got discounted, I would not be too shocked if we see a lot more lists like this moving into the future. And I think this was the data slate that was like, it was just a gift to the Lehman Russ aficionados. I know that there's hundreds of people out in the community who are just like, all I want to do is play tank companies. Let me play stupid tank companies. And they discounted normal tank company lists by like 60 points. So that's definitely worth looking at for sure. Yeah. AP stonks. The battle cannon shot goes to the moon. Cool list. That is a cool list right there. I like that. All right. This is the Huerta Omega. So I think we are down. Oh, chat. We got more Tyranids to talk about. Let's go. Astra, Militarum, and Tyranids. Killing it this week. A little bit of Death Guard, too. Not an insignificant amount of Death Guard. YHP April had Larry Oliver, who is a prolific Tyranid player, plus Justin Roxco, who we've had on stream before, actually playing Orks, at the Battle Brothers GT. I streamed him. That was a little controversial, though, so. Whoa. Stupid tanks are fun. Yeah, I'm into it. More people... I don't know. The 10th edition tank gameplay is like kind of fun. I found it pretty interesting. The 2+ save guys in cover gets like a little bit annoying, but that's why we play with Twist of Fate. All right, who should we talk about first? Let's jump into Orks first. This time, we're playing Green Tide. We have a whole new Ork variety to discuss. I'm going to pull up my Green Tide cheat sheets so that I remember what's in this. So it's 3 Pain Boys, 3 War Bosses. The Pain Boys, if I remember correctly, I'm going to double check here, can double attach with the War Boss. Oh no, they can't. They just attach by themselves. So we must be... Unless boys have that rule? Yeah, I don't see any double attach rules here. Sorry, y'all. I'm just going to verify in the datasheet that we're, everyone's by themselves, everyone's on their own. Oh, no, they can't. No, it's on the War Boss datasheet. Excuse me. Yeah, okay. I was like, I thought I was a crazy person for a second. I was like, none of the leaders say that they can double attach. No, it's on the recipient unit. Yeah, so War Bosses or Ork Boys, if you have 20 models in the unit, can attach 2 leader units. And then they separate out. You can only have 1 War Boss model in the unit, though. So you could double attach Pain Boys and War Bosses, or Weird Boys and War Bosses, I guess however you want to. We're then running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units of 20 boys. The full 120, we're all in. Plus 2 units of Gretchen, 1 unit of Mega Knobs, a single truck. This one truck that's doing the Lord's work over here. Oh, it didn't show up very well. One little truck. It's probably carrying the Mega Knobs to glory, I guess. Sick. So these guys get... The Mega Knobs are interesting in the detachment because the detachment gives save rerolls to every Ork unit. The detachment roll is written pretty weirdly. You get boys units get a 5+ invulnerable save, so they basically always have the defensive effects of the WA. But any Ork unit reroll saving throws of 1, including vehicles and including Mega Knobs. So having the base 2+ save is a pretty big deal because that makes those guys significantly tougher to kill, and especially on the WA turn when they're a 2+ save for early ones into a 4+ feel no pain. Probably not going down anytime soon. The Mega Armor War Boss counts as unit as being 10 or more models. So despite the fact that the unit is only 7 to start with, it counts as being 10 anyway. And when you are 10 models or more, that's what turns on the reroll saving throws. Excuse me. Oh yeah, so the vehicles don't get it. Sorry, right over my head. You only get the reroll saving throws if you have 10 models, and because of the enhancement, they always count as 10 models. That's a mistake on my part. I'm sorry. The Weird Boy gives you reroll advance rolls and reroll charge rolls as long as you're 10 or more models, which is really good when you combine it with their stratagem Tide of Muscle, which gives you a bonus to your charge roll for 1 CP, which is this stratagem's insane, by the way. A bonus to your charge roll equal to the current battle round number. So if you reposition them on battle round 3, you're getting and then charging out of Deep Strike with their to jump, then you're automatically getting a 6-inch charge with a reroll. So for 1 CP, the likelihood that you make the charge out of Deep Strike is absolutely insanely likely. That's like an 80%er right there. If you do it on round 4, like you're all but guaranteed. It's a 5-inch charge with a reroll when you're positioned outside 9 inches of enemies. Pretty crazy. And then the Pain Boys give them all Feel No Pain. All the boys get a base 5-up invulnerable save, so they're a 5-up, 5-up. So they basically, if you're attacking them with 1 damage weapons, they will essentially shrug about 50% of incoming damage. So you have to put 40 wounds with 1 damage weapons through on the unit to actually get rid of them, which is nuts hard to kill. Even more than that, because they can also get those saving throw rerolls. Just crazy. Crazy hard to kill, and crazy long threat ranges. Again, I think you gotta have good screening to deal with this stuff, but it does feel a little bit... I don't know, it feels more consistent than the Bully Boys, but I'm not sure if it's that much different. Although its damage output lacks a little bit, because you're just sort of hoping that the War Bosses and the Power Claws and the Boy Squads can punch through heavy armor. Otherwise, you bounce off big things pretty hard and then get punched. But that's a good old green tide right there, champ. There's an assassinate game if you've ever seen one. Yeah, but the problem with Orks, right, and the problem with the game plan that they typically are going to execute is that what else do you pick? The downside of like the truck spam kind of Bully Boys list is that if they're running the maximum war bosses and stuff, you could potentially get max assassinate, max bring it down. It's really hard because they don't have any incentive to move the trucks aggressively at you. So you have to win the attrition and then go get their trucks, which is like going to be tough. But this one, it's like, yeah, sure, you can get 20 on assassination. What are you going to take, teleport homers? And you're going to go to the middle of the table? Be my fucking guest. You know, you're not going to score engage. They're everywhere, at least in the first 3 turns. You're certainly not going to score behind enemy lines. Maybe you take Storm Hostile Objective, but again, you're playing into their game plan. So I think that they can go all in on assassination, and unless you have like a very particular set of skills, I don't know what you take as your second fixed objective. It just feels like it's a bunch of bad options. 5 inches, absolutely not getting cheap, but 5 inches with a free reroll, though. Right? It's like a 90% chance. Definitely not guaranteed, but a pretty good shot. Pretty good shot. All right, let's move on to Mr. Larry Oliver and his Tyranids. Now, he's been running Crusher Stampede prolifically for a while, as far as I could tell. He ran them at ATC Florida, and I've been seeing a bunch of results from Mr. Oliver running Crusher. So Gladius, he's getting success with the faction. or success with the detachment. Just an arrow tyrant and an old one eye in the character slot. Seems like that's becoming more of a trend with Tyranids, where you just take the tyrant for the buff on Shadow in the Warp, and then old one eye to buff the Carnifex unit. But the Carnifex unit's kind of a mainstay, I think, at this point. We do have the Carnifex unit, right? Is he by himself? Foot in mouth, chat. Oh my god. Nope. We just took old one eye. Fuck it. He's tough to kill, though. He's a 2+ armor, 5-up feel no pain, and then regenerates every command phase, right? So he just constantly heals. So him being by himself means he misses out on his rerolls, but your opponent actually has to get through his defensive profile, which is unironically super tough. The downside of him with his boys is that once your opponent gets a beat on him, he'll probably kill his boys and either leave him alive so he doesn't heal, or just straight kill him too. But if he's by himself and he's just taking chip damage, it's totally fine. Crusher's based, yeah. Taking assassinate against Orks is a trap. I think so. I think tacticals are fixed are always a trap. Never play fixed. Trash. Get that garbage out of here. We're a tactical household here. We only play tactical objectives. Let's see. Triple Exocrine, double Haruspex, triple Maleceptor, Norn Emissary, Raveners for the uppy downy, Neurolictor, and a Biovore. So a little bit of scoring. Gargoyles, Biovores. Easy peasy. So we get a little bit of screening from the Gargoyles. Raveners get you a little bit of like late game objective completion and some early game screening. And then the rest of the list is just like an immense amount of forward pressure that you're just constantly putting on your opponent and beating the crap out of them. I wonder if the Maleceptors are going to be a little bit of a secret sauce in these melee matchups, because they do project that -1 to hit and then maybe sometimes -1 to wound aura. All right, kitty. Oh, Inky wants a piece. No? Okay. No uppies for Inky today, I guess. Didn't realize that Crusher means that if you take damage, you get buffed. Yeah, it's if your unit is below starting strength. If the enemy took damage, it'd be really good. That'd be a really strong detachment ability, actually. He's just like, I'll shoot you with 1 Exocrine. All right, and +1 to hit. And reroll 1s if I'm a gun. Let's go. That would be much better than the if you take damage thing. Because Tyranid monsters usually just die. Are Arca, Flash, and Still and Sisters? They are, yeah. Probably 2 units instead of 3 now, I think, is the consensus. I like the Norn Emissary, though. The Norn Emissary is certainly going to survive and probably triggers the +1 to wound at some point, because those things are, like, unironically tough to kill. I guess also, Old One Eye by himself ends up being actually able to, like, trigger his ability. The weird part about the Carnifexes is that the only way that they would get to trigger the +1 to hit from the detachment was if one of them was dead. And if you didn't attach Old One Eye, then there's mathematically no way for the Carnifex unit itself to get +1 to hit, because you have to be below half strength, and you started with a strength of 3. But unless your opponent precisions out Old One Eye, which they're probably not going to do, you have to lose all the Carnifexes first. So you could maybe get it on Old One Eye himself if he gets reduced down to 3 wounds, but it's unlikely. There's a pretty serious chance he just dies there. Played against that list this weekend with Dreadmob. All the near-tier monsters were dead in 3 turns. Scale issue. That's what I have to say. Yeah, Carnifexes are an upgrade to Old One Eye for sure. But we're not taking them today, so who cares? All right. So, this is so funny. Good, because we just finished talking about the this exact same top 2 loadout for the YHP event, but the Abril Torneo over in Madrid also had the same top 2 placers. Take a quick peek at them. We won't spend too much time on them. This was new points, right? Am I a crazy person? This is like the list I looked at the other day. Maybe this is old points. Because this is using a WAD tribe, which I think got cut out of the new codex. I don't know what the changes look like, though, for the Ork points values. Oh, no, we had 85 more gargoyles. Just kidding. We're nailing it. Yeah, so Ruben Gutierrez running... I guess it's called a war tribe now, right? That's what they changed it to. Which I kind of appreciate, because WAAAGH exclamation point was always weird to type out when I was typing out lists. But I believe that the detachment has not changed basically at all. I don't believe that anything changed at all. I don't see anything. I'm sure there might be some very slight specifics, but I think that everything is the same, so it's identical. This is running 2 Smash Squig knobs. Oh, wait. No, this must have been actual index, because you can't take Smash Squig knobs anymore. All right. I'm going to stop talking about this list then. Sorry, chat. I didn't even notice that. Those are embedded into the unit. The -1 wound to wound thing got a nerf. Oh, excluding monsters. No! The Gargantuan Squiggoth is trash again. Why? That is unfortunate. Excluding Gross, monster and vehicle. Well, that's too bad. You can still put it on mounted, though, I guess, which is okay. Yeah, that's an old list for sure. This one's not, though. Because it's paying 85 point gargoyles. And it has cheaper zoanthropes. We did it! We actually netted points on this one. Let's go! Let's go, Tyranids! We're running a Death Leaper, Hive Tyrant with a gun. Boring. Get the gun Hive Tyrant out of here. Plus a Neuro Tyrant with Power of the Hive Mind. So he's +1 Strength and EP on his Flame Burr. Pushes it to Strength 6 EP2, which is actually like kind of nuts. 2 units of gargoyles. A Biovore, double Exocrines, double Maleceptor, double Neurolictor, 1 Reaper Swarm, just chilling. A Screamer Killer. So love the Screamer Killer in this detachment because you can shoot people and they force a -1 battle shock check on someone. In this detachment, you could also stack a bunch of leadership debuffs on people, but we're not doing that today. But we do have the Death Leaper, who has a -1 leadership aura. So you can stack -2 leadership on somebody and then shoot them in, potentially hit them with the Neurolictor in your command phase, and then shoot them in your shooting phase. Force 2 battle check checks on people, and if they fail them, you could use the like enhanced grenade stratagem that the detachment has to do mortal wounds to them in both phases. So you could hit them in command and in shooting. And then potentially, if you have a 1,000,000 CP, you go to their turn, shadow them, hit them again. So you could just mortal wound somebody to death entirely. Also, the whole Wombo combo, and this is, I think, how they drew up the Codex, but then they fucked it up by not writing the abilities very well. The Neurothrope in the Zoanthropes unit makes them additionally deal mortal wounds to you if you fail battle shock checks, and the Zoanthropes heal. So you can potentially just roll up with a Screamer Killer and plow someone to death with just mortal wounds out of battle shock checks alone, without doing any actual physical damage to them, which is kind of how the detachment's supposed to work. But they didn't do it very. They didn't do a good job. They did a bad job. So, rip. Yeah, then 2 Exocrines, 2 Maleceptors, 2 Neurolictors, Screamer Killer, Tyrannofex, Zoanthropes, yeah. Pretty sweet stuff. The Zoanthrope's really good at that detachment because you give him the floating rerolls. Plus, they can fall back and shoot, which is the only detachment in which they can do that, which is good because that is the weakness of the unit. They're relatively short range. If you engage them, they don't do anything. But in this detachment, they can fall back and still operate normally for a command point. So that's a big deal. Plus, you get a little Tyrannifex in there, too. Too bad that Tyrannifex can't get the Armor of Contempt strat that the detachment has because it's not a Psyker, but the Hive Tyrant sure can. A unit of 6 and 2 of 3. Yeah, so the unit of 6 is actually kind of a big deal because you are oftentimes trying to benefit from auras. I don't believe that there are good battle tactics in the detachment for the Zoanthropes, but you want to often chain them to the Hive Tyrant to give them assault, and you want to be able to 1 CP fall back and shoot. You could Irresistible Will them for the rerolls for free off of the Tyrant if you wanted to as well. So, and then this one lets you shoot and declare charge for 1 CP. So these stratagems are better on larger units, I should say. Plus, you're also wanting to get into the Tyrant aura, like I mentioned before. So, I actually think the larger Zoanthrope units tend to be a little bit more effective if you're in a list where you're trying to get those like specific synergies off. All right, and then we're just skipping this old Ork list. It's weird that they were playing old Orks with new points on other people, but it might just be because that's what we were looking at. What's this again, chat? Game Castle, April RTT. This is a 16-player event. Tyranids again, undefeated. I do think Tyranids, I will say, I think that Tyranids do tend to be a little bit better on the smaller tables. Because I think that people are like either slightly less optimized or a little bit worse at playing the mission. And Tyranids are so good at it that if your opponent's not like really not keyed into what they're going to do, they're just going to outscore you and you're going to table them. Against more optimized opponents can oftentimes table the Tyranid player before they get to do their thing where they just score a million points. So I do think that we are seeing probably a slight overemphasis on the number of Tyranid lists that are winning. But I do also think that Tyranids, I'm not going to say that I think they're going to be like S tier, but I do think that they're going to be above average in the coming season for sure. Yeah, start to fall apart in the 5-up matches. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, once you hit that, like, the person who's, like, 3-0, 4-0, who's also, like, very good at killing has a very well-rounded, optimized list, I do think that most Tyranid lists fall apart. Speaking of most... Actually, let's talk about the Tyranids first real quick, because we can just continue our talk about Tyranids, because we just talked about some cool Synaptic Nexus. This one's an invasion fleet again. Old One-Eye. Hive Tyrant with Adaptive Biology on the Tyrant this time, so the Feel No Pain on him, plus Death Leaper. Carnifex is for Old One-Eye. This is kind of a classic list, actually. Oh, excuse me. My soda's coming back. A single Biovore, double Exocrine, a Maloceptor, double Neurolictor, double Ripper Swarm, one Trigon, double Tyrannofex. Okay. I know that there was a big discussion recently in the Tyranid community about the use case of the Tyrannofex. A lot of times I think that the consensus is that, like, because he's good at winning trades with other high-impact shooting. So if you're shooting, for example, like a Gladiator Lancer, right? And you peek the Lancer out of cover, and you shoot them with the Rupture Cannon, and you convert one and half-kill them. And they shoot back at you, you get to blank one of them, and you always get to shoot back. So even if you're in a duel, like a shooting fight with a big anti-tank weapon, you can... The Rupture Cannon guy can oftentimes win the trades. I think the Acid Spray guy gets overwhelmed a little bit. But he's just there for like overwatching and tanking with the feel no pain anyway in the middle. He just wants to sit there and get rapid regeneration off of the Hive Tyrant over and over and over again. Alongside the Maleceptor, you kind of want those two guys to be doing that thing. And then you get the Carnifexes to back them up, and it's all classic Tyranid stuff. Hive Tyrant feels like a wet noodle. Yeah, he's a little low strength. It feels a little better in Invasion Fleet, because at least he has 10 attacks if you're running the melee version, and at least he's benefiting from like the detachment abilities. I do feel like they're a little expensive, but I don't know. Or they should be a slightly higher. Honestly, the strength isn't even that big of a problem. It's the AP that kills me. Because every time they go into like a 2+ save thing, that thing is like Armor of Contempt, and you just hit them and they save on 3s and they lose like one guy, and you're like, I love this. This is fun. I'm having a great time. Even if they could just tank shock, like let them do something. I don't know. Yeah. Sad that the Hive Tyrant is smallest in stats nowadays. Yeah, I mean, to some extent, like I understand it. If you compare them physically, like I think they read better on the table. They did the same thing with Demon Princes, right? Where they took those like 60 mil based like midweight characters, and they, instead of pushing their stats so that they were like commensurate with like a Demon Primarch, because that's basically what they were in 9th edition, right? A Hive Tyrant with an enhancement was hit like almost as hard as like Magnus in melee. But realistically, like the Hive Tyrant model is just a little guy. He's not actually significantly like, he's maybe 2 Terminators put together. But when you put him next to most of the biggest units in the range or in the game, he's a little tiny baby boy. Swarmlord fits under the second, like under the first floor level of most of the GW building kits. Like he just tucks in there. He's just a little guy. And just reading it on the table, you're like, oh, that guy is like a little monster dude, and he's kind of hard to kill, and he hits okay. But he's not like gonna kill my entire army like the Hive Tyrants of the days of yore were. And I feel like that's better from like I think from a play design standpoint, from like a player experience standpoint, that's probably better. I do feel like that they're a little bit overcosted for that stat line. And I'm also sad because having played 2 editions of Hive Tyrants literally killing my opponent's entire army by themselves, I want to go back to that. I don't want to take all these other units. I'm here to play Hive Tyrants, goddammit. And that's why I'm a Thousand Suns player now. Because Magnus is the only Hive Tyrant left in 40k. Can't allow melee to do more than AP2. Yeah, that's I don't get that. It's definitely like, it's one of those arguments where you're between the camp in the design team who are all about the sort of realism of the universe in its own setting, in which case like a big laser cannon that's meant to drill a hole in a tank would certainly have a higher AP than a dude's Thunderhammer, right? But from a play standpoint, melee is so much more dangerous and so much harder to achieve than shooting is. So if you unpower melee weapons simply for the fact that they're melee weapons, like melee in general is not going to be that good. Now, clearly, the factions who are good at melee have continued to be good at melee, and I don't think it's. I think that we are conclusively no longer in the only shooting matters edition. But I do think that shooting matters a lot more than melee most of the time. T-Suns are cooler anyway? Maybe. They're alright. My T-Suns are cooler. I don't know about everybody else's. They're alright. They're okay, I guess. Alright, let's close out on this Black Templars list. Another Black Templars list for your viewing pleasure. We are back, everybody, to Gladius Task Force. The Great Circle of Life has finally returned to where it all began in Gladius Task Force. Do we dare click on his YouTube video? I'm going to do it. What could possibly go wrong? Oh, this one. He's so cute. He's just eating a carrot. That's what a Hive Tyrant is, chat. That right there. That's a Hive Tyrant. He's just a little guy. He's just eating a carrot. I love him. Terrain matters most, and WTC melee overperforms. Yeah, I could definitely see that, especially with no raw screening. WTC definitely helps melee, but I also think the Leviathan packet terrain is fairly melee centric. There are a lot of mission and layout combinations where you can stage attackers really easily. I'm terrified of the truck spam list because there's so many terrain layouts where you can entirely enclose. You can super duper save trucks and allow them to disembark units and then charge the subsequent turn. It's almost impossible to stop them. All right, let's go. We've got a Fire Discipline combo with an Apothecary Biologus, Captain with Artificer Armor, Captain with Honor Vehement, the double Captain combo, plus High Marshal Helbrecht, 3 Black Templars Impulsors, an Eradicator squad. Interesting, we're still doing the Eradicator Fire Discipline squad, not aggressors. Yeah, no aggressors today, only Eradicators. Oh, shoot. So they can get, the benefit of the Eradicators is that they get automatic rerolls against monsters and vehicles. Jesus, I am running out of steam, chat. I apologize. I can't speak my words. So they have a better chance of triggering the Fire Discipline effects because they're already rerolling without the help of Oaths of Moment. And that lets you Oaths of Moment somewhere else. So, but they're also like specifically good against the high toughness stuff. I think they saw a lot of play recently because of Catan shards, because Eradicator squads are very specifically keyed into killing those big half damage stuff. They're probably less good at have less targets in the metagame right now, but I don't know if that's entirely gonna stay true. We'll see. We'll see if they keep seeing play. Inceptors, though, probably definitely worth playing. Super strong. 2 Plasma Exterminators on those guys. Inceptors are another reason, and I talked about this in my Space Marine video last week, but the move blocking potential of Inceptors is so insane that you can use them as like a buffer against factions like Orks, alongside Land Raider Redeemers being an insane Overwatch threat. Like super hefty melee threats are less of a problem for lists like this. You have to give up a lot of points to use them, but the ability to like Rapid Ingress to stop screens, or simply just 3-inch Deep Strike in front of your opponent's army and stop them from moving, super strong. We've then got an Infiltrator squad, Land Raider Redeemer, Primaris Sword Brethren ×3 to go into the Impulsors, and attach the characters, the 2 captains and High Marshal Helbrecht, plus a Scout squad. Good stuff. Pretty classic. I like this version of Black Templars a lot better than the Ironstorm Spearhead version. This one feels much more true to the intent of the Codex, and I think like it Black Templars just generally tend to be pretty good all-rounders because they tend to have good firepower and melee, and fitting into Gladius Task Force very well just makes total sense. And it's nice to see that the Maxima, or like the triple Primaris Sword Brethren are still played, even with their points increased, but they do so much damage into a wide variety of targets that just take them. Like, you just take them. And that was the Game Castle RTT. I think I am a little running out a little bit here of energy, so I think that might be the last one that we take a peek at. Who is good at melee? Like, who in general? I mean, World Eater's really good at melee. Orks are really good at melee. Space Marines are really good at melee. Like, whether it's Blood Angels or Black Templars or whoever. Like, honestly, If you were to look at a lot of the top factions in the game, I think a lot of them would be melee oriented. Mexican, I appreciate that. I like to ham it up sometimes. But chat, that's a quick peek at the competitive armies for the start of the edition. I'm super excited about next week because I think that next week is going to be the real sort of test of the meta. We're going to see large events start to use these lists, and we're going to see if answers can be sourced for orcs, if orcs end up actually being as big of an issue as people think they are. And we're also going to see what the other factions can bring to the table, even after getting points nerfs. I like to see all the Astra Militarum in this one. That was really cool. I mean, we saw just wildly different Astra Militarum lists in this season. So many Tyranids as well, sort of coming out of the woodwork. And Black Templar players still playing, even though their armies went up a lot in points, is really rad. Kroot. Yeah, all those amazing Kroot melee attackers. Get them. There isn't many anti-tank melee threats. I mean, I don't know if that's entirely true. I think that they are less common. Like, it is easier for melee to be anti-infantry, but I don't think it's true that there are not any. Like tell a Blood Angels player that they're not good at killing tanks in melee, and then like watch them laugh at you. They like scoff derisively, and then they'll blow up like infinite Imperial Knights with like fucking Vanguard veterans or whatever. Votann can be quite melee heavy. Yeah. I would say Votann are pretty distinctly mid-range. Votann are like, they take a reasonable amount of melee to back up their good shooting. I wouldn't say that they're like all the way into one or the other, but their melee is good. Once judgment tokens are on your units, those Chthonian berserks, man, whew. Plus Einherjar champions, whew. Doing a bunch of mortal wounds on the charge. Yeah. Anders, thank you for hanging out, man. I hope you have a good event this weekend. I hope you do well with the Tyranids. I think that'd be rad. Longship left. Wraith Knight got vanguarded, yeah. And they're like, I'm strength 8, lethal hits, lance. You're like, okay, guess I'll die. Like, rip. In addition, as I said at the beginning of the stream chat, 2 things. First of all, if you want to keep the party going, come over to the Purple channel in 3 hours' time. That's twitch.tv/TacticalTortoiseTV. I'm going to be streaming Chaos Knights versus White Scars, which sounds like a rad matchup, and I think it's going to be super cool. That is T5S2 55 finals. So that's going to be over on Twitch. Please go give me a follow over there if you want to see that one live. I think that game's going to be awesome. It's Digital Wizard versus T-Dog, who are both like sweethearts, so it should be a fun game. That will be the last game that I stream over on Twitch this week, because on Friday I'm leaving for the Richmond Open. You'll get redirected after the end of the stream to the Richmond Open stream page, but that will be live Saturday at 10 a.m. US Eastern Time. We're going to be streaming a big 130-person major using the new points, so hopefully that will be a good one. And yeah, otherwise, remember to keep it classy, have happy wargaming, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, everybody, and I'll see you later.